Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so we have the new Limit Breaker quest, and it looks like it'll be starting on the 1st, and then I believe it's here to like the 20th or something, so you have a little bit of time to do it. I just recommend doing it as soon as you can. Obviously, we have the new Limit Breaker character, which looks like it's going to be the Retsu Unahana, as there are Quincy enemies that are heart. You also get mind attribute damage times 2, range damage times 2, killer effect times 4, and then there's also weakening on the ground. Just off the top of my head, I believe Ishin is immune to weakening, so I believe you could be able to use him, unless he's immune to something else, but I'm pretty sure it's weakening, and he has all of these multipliers besides range damage, so I think if you don't have Retsu, you have Ishin. I think he's good enough. He should be fine. Slot 2 has no affiliation and power, speed attribute damage times 2, melee damage times 2, killer effect times 4 with burn. I'm pretty sure this is for Owetsu, if I'm not mistaken, unless the killer is wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's no affiliation. And then slot 3 is Soul Reaper Killer, speed enemies, technique damage times 2, and then there's paralysis on the ground, which I'm 99% certain is for Giselle, slot 3. So, yeah, those are like the best ones from what I've seen, and then I guess we can go over some alternatives. As you can see, this is my team, by the way. Going to be using Ishin, Giselle, and Uryu. But yeah, let's go over and see who we could potentially bring for slot 1. So if we just go rarity, Quincy Killer, and then it's ranged, who do we have? I mean, you have Oak, but he's not getting the mind damage times 2. You know, he's also not getting the type advantage. So that could be a bit of a downside of it. You could also possibly use Wolf Tosh. Don't think it's going to be that fun. Balgo, he does have increased chance. He is ranged, and he actually would do pretty good. I don't know if he would do better than Ishin, but he has increased chance against heart attribute enemies. He has Quincy Killer. He has a pretty good strong attack kit. Not like the best, but it is pretty good. Sprinter 2. He has Havoc. Berserker 40%. He is a farmer though, so he doesn't have that many skills, but you know, he has SP boost, increased chance, frenzy 1, bombardment as well. So I mean, he could do well, especially if you have him duped out. But obviously Retsu and Ishin are probably just better. But now, how about if we just take away ranged? Yeah, so Ishin, he's melee. Noitora possibly, but he's not going to get the increased chance because they are. Is he? Yeah, because he has an increased chance against mind attribute enemies, but he could work if he's all you have. You know, Frenzy 2, SP boost, damage to lacerated enemies. He has complete status immunity, Berserker of 40%. He has Havoc, Guard Break, Lacerate, and all of his skills is pretty good as well. You're just gonna have to rely on proccing status elements quite a bit. Other than that, who else could you possibly use? Ichibei, does he have weaken resistance, or is he a paralysis immunity character? I cannot remember. He is paralysis. Ooh, so that is going to be very unfun, to be honest. You could possibly do it. Another thing, Ichibei can actually be a slot 3, because it's Soul Reaper, speed enemies, and there's paralysis on the ground. And it's only technique damage times 2, so you can actually use Ichibei if you don't have Giselle. I just realized that. But like, Ichibei is still good. He has weakening, berserker, 100%, frenzy +1, sprinter, long stride. You know, he has the gauge as well. Start gauge 70%, gauge effect, strong attack recharge plus 30% whenever you proc your gauge. SP boost of 50%, berserker of 50, gauge rampage. Only frenzy 1 though, which is like his biggest thing, and then he also doesn't have any base SP. So, you know, if you're not proccing that gauge, it's just not going to be that great. So you're definitely going to have to rely on, like, probably having a few dupes, if I had to say so, to make him work. But he could work if you, you know, get this right RNG and all that. There is Yama. You could use Yama. He's a bit outdated, obviously, but, like, a lot of people I know 5-5'd him when he first dropped. So, like, he's still good. He can still definitely be used. Unfortunately, though, he's not going to get, like, literally any of the damage multipliers besides the killer effect times 4. So keep that in mind. But, you know, his weakening and burn, all his strong attacks, berserker of 40, immunity. He has frenzy of 1, bombardment, damage to weakening and burning enemies, weakened defense, SP boost to 80%. And he also has, like, the god strong attack kit, beam, vortex, full screen SA3. So pretty good. Outside of that, I mean, we could take off killer and then go for range, just like any range character. Mainly gonna want to probably go for a mind character. So like Candace could potentially work. You're not getting killer here, but like they have everything else going for them. They're mind, they're ranged. So like Candace, maybe Meninas. Asnot's pretty decent. Nini, 7th anniversary Ichigo, and below that I wouldn't really go below Ichigo. That's when the power creeper really falls off. But yeah, those are just a few of the characters. I obviously can't go over every single possibility. Like you could just keep saying like, oh, this character, this character, this character, but like, you know, there's a few good options there. Now as for the next one, no affiliation speed. So speed, no affiliation, melee killer. Who could we potentially? Yeah, okay. So it is Owetsu. I thought so. Owetsu is going to be insanely good unless maybe they absolutely like make the enemies super squishy, but obviously he has no killer or no affiliation killer plus damage to enemies not afflicted by an ailment plus 40%. So there's like basically no RNG besides just trying to proc your gauge at the right time. Berserker 100% and an extra frenzy plus 1 on his gauge, which is ludicrous. Spritzer 2, Havoc at 20%. He also has this, start gauge plus 70%. He has a strong attack recharge time. He has the cooldown fighter resistance, which is what's on the ground. He has gauge rampage, frenzy plus 2, bombardment, increased damage to enemies not afflicted by an ailment of 140% in total, including his soul trait. He has weakened defense and long stride, and then he has poise break. So when there are poise enemies, he will be able to like knock them down, which is so good. It's he's insane. He's insane. As for that, you did see that there was 7th anniversary Uryu. This is who I will be using. He worked out pretty well last time, so why not? And actually with Uryu, I could potentially bring Remy in slot 3. I just realized that he won't have increased chance, but he has Frenzy 3. He has a really good strong attack kit, so maybe I'll end up having to try Remy in slot 3 to boost my Uryu's damage, so that way slot 2 doesn't suffer as much, but we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, no, Giselle's only tech enemies, never mind. But yeah, he has weakening and drain all of his strong attacks. He has the debuff by 50%, I believe, on his soul bomb. He has his gauge effect is 100% more berserker and 50% damage taken. He has sprinter and long stride, beautiful. Team party recovery, which is very nice, especially if you get hit like once by one enemy. It's pretty annoying. He has the gauge effect, strong attack recharge minus 30%. Unfortunately, he does have bruiser on his kit at the time. And nowadays as well, a lot of characters are just getting Bruiser for no reason. But Bruiser 20%, 20% Berserker. You know, he has Havoc, Frenzy at 2, increased chance against power attribute enemies, increase speed attribute character strong attack damage by 20% as well, and he has Guard Break. He has a pretty good kit as well, 3K length beam, huge lunge SA2, and then full screen SA3. So he's pretty good. It's pretty good. But now let's see if we just take off. Melee, who could we potentially use? Macy. Macy's a pretty good character. I don't believe she has any immunity though, but she does have a pretty good kit. No affiliation killer, obviously. She is ranged, so she's not getting the melee damage times 2. But you know, she has Havoc, speed attribute recharge minus 20%, so she's going to be getting her strong attack back faster, which is going to be pretty nice. She has Bruiser of 20%, Berserker of 40%. Frenzy 2, damage to enemies by paralyzed or weakened by 40%, weakened defense and SP boost, and then she has a 18% shade, which is unfortunate, but then a really good SA2, and then a full screen SA3. The SA2 is a vortex, forgot to say. So really good character, really good character. Obviously though, gonna have to watch out for the burn on the ground and whatnot. But outside of that, I wouldn't really recommend any other character. It's just gonna be those 3 at the moment. Maybe if we just take off no affiliation and we just go for melee, who could we potentially use? I mean, there is Kenny. Like, if you really want to brute force your way through, you could, but he doesn't have an increased chance. He does have Frenzy 3, though, so there's a possibility. He is good, but he's never going to have Killer, unfortunately. He has high damage, though, you know, Berserker of 100%. Unfortunately, he only has weakening resistance, so you're going to have to watch out for that. He does have Poise Break, which is pretty good. SP boost of 80% on top of when you proc your EX ability, which makes it like 300% apparently, which is crazy. So, I mean, he's good, but no increased chance. Don't really know if it'd be that fun to use, but you could try him if he's all you have. Kangdu. Kangdu is pretty good, especially in like Limit Breaker. I think he's pretty good. He has the 120% SP boost. He has Sprinter +2 on his gauge, Frenzy +1. Sprinter +2 is crazy. What? That's so weird. He has Havoc, only poison resistance though, so watch out for the status summons on the ground, obviously. He has Start Gauge, 70%, Gauge Effect, you know, Berserker at 50, Frenzy 2, Gauge Rampage, so more kills, you build up your gauge faster, increased chance against power attribute enemies, damage to frozen enemies, and then the full SP boost of 120%. Pretty good character, pretty good character. Obviously though, missing out on the killer, but he has melee damage ×2 and the speed damage ×2. There's also Yatru, which I think is probably the final character you could probably use here. Yatru's still very, very good. Obviously, she doesn't have any increased chance. She's not going to have killer. But she is, like most people have her 5/5. She has a pretty good strong attack kit. She has weakening on all of her strong attacks. She has the SA3 trap, which is pretty good. Insta kill soul bomb. She has Sprinter 2. Party recovery. Full stamina only. Reduced strong attack cooldown by 6%. Only for her though, not her entire team. Berserker of 20%. Devastation 40, full stam 20, complete status immunity, so that's pretty good. Rampage, so every kill you get an extra 2% damage going all the way up to 50 kills, where you get an extra 100% damage, 20% havoc, frenzy +2, debilitator. She also has long stride built in and SP boost of 80%. So she is good, but in Limit Breaker Quest, they get a bit beefy, you know, so it's not like the most fun. It's very... They like to make it for the new characters, unfortunately. Okay. BBS is just not loading. Internet went out there for a second. I don't know why. But yeah, that is pretty much it for here. Can't really think of any other character to use. I guess what you could end up doing is taking off speed and then go for no affiliation killer and then melee. Who could we potentially use? There is Yuha you could potentially use. White, 8th anniversary White is pretty good. Maybe the Ichigo, but I don't really know. I don't think he's all that, especially because he has no status elements, just like raw damage. I think that's honestly about it. I guess we'll go over Yuha. Yuha obviously is still an absolutely insane character, no affiliation killer. He has weakening in all of his strong attacks. He has the enemy defeated bonus, increased bruiser by 20%, increased berserker by 40%. That's for 40 kills. After 60 kills, you get 60% devastation, and then after 80, increased special move by 1. He also has Sprinter +1, Long Stride, Marauder. He has the Mind attribute, Strong Attack Recharge, minus 20%. So each room you gain your strong attacks back 20% faster. He has a Berserker of 40%, Devastation of 60, Complete Status Immunity, Havoc, Frenzy of 2, Weakened Defense, and SP boost. So he's going to be very, very good for this, and a very good strong attack kit as well. But no increased chance, so it's going to be kind of annoying to continuously proc your SP boost and whatnot, but it's doable. It's doable, especially if you have dupes in him. And then White is good. A bit power crept, obviously, mainly by Yuha, but he has, you know, no affiliation killer. Weakening, no, that is Lacerate and Drain on all of his strong attacks. Sprinter +3, Complete Status Immunity, Marauder. Increased Mind attribute character movement speed, that's actually whatever. Havoc of 20%, Frenzy of 2, Bombardment. He has increased status summon chance against heart attribute enemies, increased mind attribute character special move damage by 30%, increased damage to lacerated enemies of 60%, damage to drained enemies of 40%, weakened defense, and an SP boost. So he's going to be a very, very good character as well if you have him, but obviously he's not getting all the bonuses. He's not going to get the speed damage ×2, and he's not going to have the affiliation or attribute advantage against these enemies, so keep that in mind. And then yeah, that is pretty much it for slot 2. I can't really think of anyone off the top of my head. Obviously there might be other ones, but I just can't think of any. Going into slot 3, speed or a technique Soul Reaper ranged killer. I guess you don't need range, actually. It's only technique damage ×2. So these are going to be your best options. Giselle, Ichibe, and Toshiro look to be your best top 3 options. I would not recommend anyone below that, like Uryu, Artwork Ichigo. I think they're just vastly outdated. They're just not good. We already went over to Ichibe, but let's go over Giselle. So Giselle, she has Soul Reaper Killer Plus. strong attack recharge time minus 14% as well. She has the EX skill, you know, and then she also has the dominate skill where you can take over enemies and then they don't do damage to you and they damage themselves or enemies. Sprinter +1, paralysis resistance, havoc of 20%. Unfortunately, she did get bruiser, but you know it's not terrible. Bruiser of 40%, berserker of 60%, frenzy +2, bombardment, a debilitator of 7 seconds, increased status summon chance against soul reapers. So you're probably just always going to be proccing status summons, which is really good. Increase technique attribute character damage to status and when affected enemies of 30%, which is crazy. Unfortunately, there's no other technique units that you could possibly use here. Damage to dominated enemies by 100%, weaken defense, and SP boost of 80%. So Giselle's going to be your main character. Very, very good character as well. I'm also going to double check, does Ichibei have paralysis resistance? It is. Okay, yeah. So we already went over him, so he'd be a good pick as well for slot 3. I couldn't remember if it's weakening or paralysis, but now on the Toshiro, he's not the best, but he can probably do it. He has Soul Reaper Killer, freeze in all of his strong attacks. His gauge does give you an extra 100% berserker and decreased damage taken minus 50%. Innate skills is Sprinter 2, full stam only, increased strong attack damage by 40%. An extra full stam damage boost by 20%, and then the gauge effect, you have your strong attack recharge minus 30%. Gauge effect, you get a heal as well, so it's like you don't get much by your gauge. Like, yeah, he gets the berserker and you get the recharge when you proc it, but that's about it. You don't start off with your gauge either, so it's a very slow build up. It's just not that fun. Berserker of 40%, he does have complete immunity. Havoc, frenzy of 1, he has bombardment, and then SP boost at 80%. It's like he's usable, but this is like probably like the oldest character I would go for. Anything below that, and I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm not using them at all. But now I guess we can just go for just a Soul Reaper killer. If you just go for Soul Reaper. Actually, we'll go tech only. We'll go tech only. So you could go for like Shinji or Gremmy or Bambietta. Those characters are going to be really good. Possibly even Rengiku if you just constantly keep proccing status elements. Let's go over Gremmy first because I did bring him up earlier. Because he's going to be an amazing support if you use Uryu. If you use Uryu, I think Gremmy would probably be the best in slot 3. I think. Maybe Giselle would still be better, but if he buffs your slot 2 and making that easier, I think maybe Gremmy might have a solid fit here. His EX skill, obviously, is a buff and a debuff of 30%, so it's going to be really, really good. He has paralysis and weakening. Paralysis and drain, that's drain. Paralysis and drain on all of his strong attacks, including his soul bomb. He has havoc, you know, berserker of 70%. Complete status immunity. Increased Quincy strong attack damage by 20%. Frenzy +3, bombardment, debilitator, increased status summon chance against hollows, but obviously that's not going to take place into here. Element reversal, and then right here, increased Quincy damage to status element affected enemies of 30%. So those two skills up there would be very, very good for Uryu. Weaken defense and an SP boost of 80%. So yeah, and he also has like the best strong attack kit in the game. He's a very broken character. Up next, we have Shinji. Shinji will have increased chance against Soul Reapers, but he does not have killer. But he still gets the technique attribute damage times 2. He has freeze resistance though, so you're going to have to watch out for the status summons on the ground. He has confusion and weakening on all of his strong attacks. So they could just end up like running away because of the confusion. So watch out for that. He has bruiser of 50%. I didn't realize it was that high. Berserker of 50%. Then he has Frenzy at 2, increased chance against Soul Reapers, so it's a pretty good chance to always be proccing status elements. He has damage to confused enemies of 60%, weaken defense, guard break, and SP boost of 120%. I forgot he's a 40% SP boost link, and he also does have recharge built in. So yeah, he's going to be pretty good. Don't know if he'd be better than Gremmy and Giselle, obviously, but you know, if you don't have them, he's a pretty solid fit. He has the increased chance, so he's pretty good. And then as for Bambietta, don't really think she's gonna do all that, obviously. Like she has the killer enemy defeated bonus, but most of her stuff is from Guild Quest, and then her only increased chance is a wrong card. So she has SP boost at 80% and like Frenzy 2 and 40% Berserker. That's literally all she has. don't think it's going to be all that. But if she's all you have, you might be able to do decent. As for Rangiku, she has an Aron card killer as well. Oh boy. You know, she has the enemy defeated bonus of 20%. So you kill 20 enemies, you get full stamina boost. Full stamina damage boost of 20%. Kill 40 enemies, you get a full stamina damage boost of 40%. She has a last rate on all of her skills and freeze and last rate on her soul bomb. She does have fire resistance, so you're gonna have to watch out for the paralysis on the ground. She has stamina recovery, an extra full stamina only increased strong attack damage of 40%. She does have havoc, increased technique, attribute soul reaper damage to status amulet affected enemies of 40%, which is pretty good. Weakened defense, SP boost to 80%. So yeah, she has no increased chance, so it's gonna be very RNG dependent, not very fun. But she is a character you could possibly use. That's mainly why. Already went over Ichibe. Possibly could use Quincy Ichigo. Like, I do think he's outdated, but he's still okay. Full stand boost, technique, attribute, strong attack, recharge. So if you do use Giselle, you would not be using Giselle in slot 2. Never mind. She's still in slot 3. But he has Bruiser of 20%, Berserker of 40%, Frenzy 2, increased status amulet chance against speed attribute enemies, so he does have an increased chance, and then increased technique, character, strong attack damage by 20%, and then an SP boost of 80%. So he's still pretty good, you know, 18% shave though, and then it's a beam SA2, and then full screen. Not terrible, but it's okay. It's okay for a strong attack kit. And then you might be able to use Aizen. I don't know. Anything else below that, I wouldn't really recommend. But let's just try to wrap this video up. My mouth is, I'm getting tired. So let's take off tech and go Soul Reaper Killer. So you could use Basby. He's mainly a Guild Quest character, though. He does not have any Berserker. Mainly all of his skills are in Guild Quest. You know, he only has Frenzy 2. He does have an increased chance against Soul Reapers, though. He has damage to burning enemies. He has weakened defense, SP boost of 80%, and then he has weakened resistance. So you're gonna have to watch out for paralysis. But he's usable. You know, he's usable. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. True Shikai Ichigo is still an absolutely insane character. He has Soul Reaper Killer. He has weakening in the last round on all of his strong attacks. He has Sprinter 2, Long Stride, Berserker 20%, complete status immunity. He has Havoc, Frenzy of 2, Bombardment, increased chance against Soul Reapers and Quincy, so you have an increased chance. Damage to weakened enemies of 40%, damage to last rate enemies of 60%, and an SP boost of 80%. So if you have dupes on him, I think he would be a pretty good slot 3. Because why not? I mean, you're not getting the technique damage times 2, but if you have dupes on him, I think he should be fine. And then I think the final character here, I'm probably going to say, would be Unohana and Ichigo, but we've already went over both of them. They don't have increased chance to Soul Reapers, though, so it's going to be very unfun. You could use Noelle, too, I guess. You could use Noelle, but I honestly don't think she's that great. She's just kind of like... She does have paralysis resistance, though. She does have paralysis resistance. You know, Soul Reaper Killer. Weakening and draining all of her strong attacks. Berserker of 40, Bruiser 20, Bombardment, Frenzy of 1 only though, so like yeesh. Very low chance to proc. Damage to weakened enemies of 40, damage to drain enemies of 40%, weakened defense, and an SP boost of 80%. So you could use her, but I don't really recommend it. So yeah, this is gonna be my team. Obviously though, you can just swap out Ishin for Retsu, or Uryu for Oetsu, and then that would be the best team possible, which is Giselle in slot 3 most likely. Maybe Uryu and Gremmy, and then Ishin would be a better team though, because if Gremmy is buffing Uryu. But yeah, that's enough yapping. It's a 24-minute video. Oh my god, I have to end this. Thank you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down below your guys' team. Sorry for yapping for 24 minutes. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Take care and peace out.